Hi everyone, this is Adrian.
And I'm Carrie.
And for this episode of the Scent Library, we are going to talk about two fragrances that has oud from Ralph Lauren.
So, back in 2015, Ralph Lauren released a line called the Supreme line, and it had three fragrances in it. One of them was Oud, Supreme Oud. It came out in 2015, and it didn't see a whole lot of market popularity, although it certainly was popular with some of the fragrance community people. And in about 2020, it was no longer available anywhere. So this is not one you can easily go out and buy. But the reason that we're going to talk about it is because they've also released a new oud fragrance, which is similar but has what some people might think of as improvements on it, but differences and stuff. So if you liked this old one that they released, or you'd had it, or you've had samples of it, you probably will like the new one, but it is different, and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So you tried both of them, and you
Yes.
actually tried the new fragrance first.
Yes, the Polo Oud.
Yeah, so tell me what you thought of this one without, comparing it to the other one yet.
Well, this one is pretty straightforward oud fragrance.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
Right. Yeah, the notes are fairly simple. It has top notes of cinnamon, pink pepper, and then it uses middle notes of Indian oud or agar wood, and then base notes, guaiac wood, and vetiver. So just a handful of notes.
Yeah.
What comes out the most to you?
The oud.
Okay, so you think it's an oud-centric?
Yeah,
thing.
oud-centric.
Okay. That's kind of what most people who have written anything and talked about it on some of the fragrance forums and stuff say too, that it's fairly oud-centric. It gets pretty much right to the heart notes and stays with that. And a little bit of vetiver sort of supports it in the base and the dry down. So once again, the notes are pretty simple. Top notes, cinnamon, pink pepper. Middle notes, agar wood or oud. And base notes, guaiac wood and vetiver. So this one, like I said, it came out in 2015 and it is discontinued. Be very, very careful about buying it on eBay because there's a lot of fakes out there.
Oh.
Yeah, I got caught up in that once. I got one from a mail order place that had lots of like discontinued deals and stuff, and it seemed to be a little bit too good to be true, but I went ahead and bought it. And I got
really
it.
was too good to be
It
true.
was too good to be true. Yeah, the horseman on the front and stuff you could see was kind of, like a press-on type label. It was sort of flaky and bubbled a little bit. The box looked good and was really convincing, and I actually compared the box on this authentic one to that one, and they were literally identical. I mean, they may have gotten a hold of some real boxes or something from the company that made them. The bottle looked pretty good except for the horseman on it, but then when you sprayed it on, it just basically smelled like just about nothing.
Oh.
So I got screwed on that. Be very careful about buying from anybody that's that you don't have good reason to believe that it's the real thing. If you liked this one and stuff and you still want to find one, you can find them on eBay, but you're going to probably pay close to $200 or more.
Oh, wow.
And it's kind of sketchy to know if you're getting it. Now, how much did they cost when they were brand new? Like most Ralph Lauren's, maybe $100, $120.
Okay.
And that might be a little overpriced for most Ralph Lauren's, in my opinion. I think this one was good. It was called a sort of a niche fragrance amongst the Ralph Lauren Polo line, and a lot of people admired it and stuff, but apparently just not quite enough in the mainstream public to really keep it going. But moving on to the next one, this is a new one released this year, 2023, and this one is simply called Polo Oud. Okay, now when you tried this one, this was the first one that you tried. What were your thoughts on this initially?
It's more complex. There's a lot of more ingredients.
Yeah.
and so I can still smell the oud, but it's not as pronounced as the other one.
Right, right. Do you remember when you were wearing it what you thought else kind of really came out in it?
The rose.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And a lot of other people support that idea that this one has a kind of a more complex, also a little bit softer edged type of a composition to it and stuff. And the rose and probably the incense has a kind of a myrrh characteristic to it. And so, it makes the oud experience a little bit more spicy oriental or something, where the other one is a fairly dry, woody type of an oud, a lot like the Tamim carved oud. So this one, like I said, came out in 2023, and it has top notes of clary sage and pink pepper. So it also has in the middle, though, meaning guess that it hangs around and lasts a little bit longer, cinnamon, rose, and orange blossom. And I really kind of like the orange blossom being there. I don't get a big whiff of it in something like a neroli type of a scented fragrance, but combining with the softness of the rose and the kind of gentle spiciness of the cinnamon, I think then it envelops the base notes of oud, incense, gaiac wood, vetiver, and patchouli in a nice way that supports it, but really emphasizes the oud and the myrrh type of an incense smell that it gives. So, in your opinion, which one of these, if you had to just choose one of them, which would you go with?
I would go with Supreme Oud.
Really?
Yes, because I am a fan of oud and it's more straightforward.
Yes, it is. It's hard to find a lot of times oud fragrances that aren't wrapped up in a lot of other things like rose and incense and maybe some other things, because oud's really expensive. And sometimes they use a little bit, if they're using natural oud, which I don't think that either of these are natural oud. But if they're using natural oud, sometimes the oud they get has a kind of a stinky quality to it, a little bit like they call it animalic, to be straightforward. A lot of people call it poopy smelling. But it isn't really that bad, but it does smell a little like kind of rotten-y or something like that, a little bit rotten eggy or something to it. But to kind of soften that out so you don't notice that as much as just the oud characteristics and stuff, they put rose and other things around it. And it ends up smelling good, but it's hard to find a wood or a woody oud. And so I think they do a fairly good job of that with the Supreme Oud. And then with the newer one, once again, I don't think that at this price point they actually use real oud, but whatever they use, they kind of have just went with a scent profile that they think a lot of people are going to enjoy. And I think it's right. So now, smelling both of these, I actually like the newer one better. So, I mean, that kind of, just shows the differences in tastes and stuff that can develop around oud fragrances. What do you think would be occasions you would wear each of these?
I would wear the Supreme Oud in a party when I need something that's a little loud, and when it's like more sophisticated audience, highbrow setting, I would use Polo Oud.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I would use these not so much in warm or really humid weather, but in, a little bit cooler seasons of the year, like we're heading into right now. It's going into fall. So I think fall, winter, and early spring before it gets too hot. Both of these smell really good. What did you think about the longevity of each one of these?
About the same.
About the same. And how long would you say it lasts noticeably on the skin?
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. because maybe I get nose blind and I have to spray on again and stuff like that.
I think when you were wearing it, and I noticed, that I could still notice it on you the following morning after you were wearing it. So I do think it maybe lasts longer than what you probably would think on yourself, because you do go a little bit nose blind to it. But I would also say that it kind of dies down to a pretty close bubble within maybe 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
I've heard some people say that they think it lasts, either one of them, that they last a long time. I don't feel like that so much. I think it's more 4 to 6 hours, and it becomes really more of a skin scent. But I do notice it on clothes even the next day.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it for these two. You really can't get the Supreme Oud anymore. I have noticed that in very recent times you can get a couple of the other Supreme fragrances, the Cashmere and Leather, on Fragrance by CA. They seem to have come across a shipment of those, but nowhere can you find the Polo Supreme Oud. But the new Polo Oud is available, and I would think it's probably going to be available for a while, although it leans rather niche within the flankers of Polo. So if you get it and you like it, I would stock up on a few bottles of it, because this is likely to be discontinued after just a couple years or so, just like the other one.
Okay.
So that's all for today.
Okay, till next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.